So this is the first of the webinars that we're doing in the Circle community. I used to just do webinars with the local MS self-help group, and now I wanted to kind of expand that and yeah, and be able to have a bigger group working together and understanding the tools themselves, because I think there's um, there's power in knowing what you're doing and having tools yourself and working on each other and supporting each other. So today's webinar, we're going to be looking at numbness, pain, burning, and tingling, and how understanding the origins of those can actually start creating relief. In this webinar and in all the workshops and in my one-on-one sessions, we're going to use a framework that considers the body to be functioning perfectly. It is doing everything it can to keep you safe and to keep you going. You might not agree right now with its methods, and I get that, but at least here in these interactions, in this community, I would love for you to play with the concept that there's actually a reason for each of your symptoms. Play with the concept that the body's not broken and that it is not punishing you. And we'll talk about punishment probably next month in the webinar. Instead, the body is functioning brilliantly to keep you safe. Okay, so I want to help you start to make sense of why you have that particular symptom and not some other symptom, why in that particular part of your body and not, for example, in your ear, and why it began at that precise moment of your life. I've spent well over a decade seeking these answers, and I really want to share what I've learned. Um, so I want to ask you guys, why might that be important? That precision in location and reasoning. Why do we need to be super clear about the cause of a particular symptom? Now, when I have a new client, they tell me, I've been diagnosed with MS. And I'm like, okay, that's a label. What are you experiencing, right? Where are you experiencing it? Why would that be important?
Um, I think
Yeah.
it's just important. I do energy work. So for me, identifying where it is in the body is really helpful in releasing it and understanding it and communicating with what is going on in your
Yeah,
body.
yeah. You wanna communicate with that, and also in the chat we have, is it so that we're not making a multitude of stories about it? Well, multitude of stories, and we're more precise in our healing methods. Also, think about this: if we assume that the body doesn't just break down like a car, but is actually a sentient being that has actually put the symptoms in place to keep you safe, to protect you. And then we actually do the work of understanding what it's protecting you from. When we understand that, then we can actually put a different solution in place instead of the symptoms, right? We can create real, sustainable changes in our lives in order to best address the problem so that the body doesn't have to be resolving it for us. Okay. And it doesn't have to keep doing it for us. In a sense, we have to take over this protective job of the symptoms. Does that make sense? Right? If we don't understand what it's doing, all we're trying to do is remove it. Um, just recently, I heard on the radio there was these men that are training to walk to get on the Alps. Right? In order to do that, you need to be able to absorb more oxygen when there's less in the environment. To do that, you need to multiply the amount of red blood cells. And so you need to train your body and get it to multiply those red blood cells. And there was talking about all this severe training. If that guy goes to a doctor and the doctor's like, oh my gosh, you have too many red blood cells, and he doesn't understand why they're there, that doctor might be giving him things to try to reduce the red blood cells instead of recognizing this is a mountaineer that is training to be able to be in the Himalayas without so many, extra oxygen masks, et cetera, et cetera. So we need to understand, if we understand what the body's doing for us with these symptoms, then he can wear an oxygen mask when he trains, right? Or maybe he says, no, I want these extra red blood cells. Does that make sense? Okay. Before we get into today's focus on today's symptoms, pain, numbing, burning, and tingling, and I've grouped them together because they actually have a lot in common. Before we do that, I just want to give you guys just a little tidbit about me. I remember some time ago I was preparing for a presentation at a hypnotherapy association conference, and I was practicing. I was like, Delmar, my sister, I was like, listen to my presentation. And after about 5 minutes, she stops me and she goes, Eva, you've got to tell them who you are. It's like you're just like giving them all this information, and they're like, who the hell are you? Right. So, just really quick. My name is Eva. You can pronounce it a ton of different ways, and they're all okay. The most common is Eva as an evolution. I always use that one. Um, I'm a medical hypnotherapist and I'm a trainer in medical hypnotherapy. I'm not a physician. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, and I'm not diagnosed with MS. But life did lead me into this specialization probably about 13 years ago. I'm an avid researcher and student. I have trained in a ton of mind-based therapies and even other kind of modalities, and I've tested them to really find which ones are effective. Because if I have someone who says, oh my gosh, this really worked on me, then I want to see, does it work on everybody else? Or might there be something else that the person is doing that they're not even aware of that might be causing, right, the healing more than that thing? Okay, so as I said, I've specialized in MS for over 12 years. I've worked with close to 200 people with MS. I've mapped out a lot of aspects of MS, which is what I want to be sharing with you guys. And I published an article and a study in the Frontier Journal of Neuroscience last year with the results of the studies and with the new theory of the link between stress and MS. Here in the community, what I really want to do is share what I know, because I feel that it's going to really boost your ability to regain control and to create, as I've been saying, real precision in your healing rather than just throwing stuff at, this thing called MS, correct? Okay. Hello, welcome. Got a new person. So, we just started, and what I really wanted to explain right now is a little bit an introduction to the framework we're going to be using in these webinars. And I'll slowly in each webinar, present another aspect of it. Today, I wanted to present a general aspect of the framework. The framework we're using to support our work is German New Medicine. More precisely, we'll be using the next generation of German New Medicine called biodecoding. Why? Because biodecoding is really effective. It has tools, and it has tools such as hypnotherapy and NLP, so that we can work and discover not only what caused the symptoms to start, but also what programmed us to be vulnerable to those kind of symptoms, right? I have some, I did a workshop some time ago, and I'll post it on the circle on the personality, common beliefs and behaviors, right? That personality will then have you more prone to these kind of symptoms. We'll also be using medical hypnotherapy. We'll be using neurolinguistic programming, NLP. Why? Because they are really effective in making change in your life, change in your beliefs, change in your behaviors, so that the body can stop MSing. Actually, I had a conversation with Gavin a couple days ago, and I told him about, one of the things that inspired me was there's been some studies on multiple personalities. And when someone switches from one personality to another, their markers, disease markers, actually disappear. So if they have diabetes in one personality, they don't have it in the other, right? So there's a vulnerability according to our beliefs and behaviors and our demeanor, right? The roadmap we're going to be using is understand why the body reacted with this kind of symptom, link this understanding to what happened to you, and then create change, real change, so that you can regain control and empowerment because knowledge is not enough. A few concepts before we jump into these particular symptoms, and jump in, put your hand up, just take off your ask any questions at any moment. I've filled this webinar, but the most important part is that you guys get where we're going and what we're doing. Okay. So, a few concepts. Um, One of the things people usually ask me when I say I use mind based therapies is they're like, well, MS is not all in my head, right? It is not because I'm crazy or because I'm all stressed. And I agree, it's not. Physical symptoms are not caused by psychological conflicts, but by a full body, the full system is responding and reacting. Your body, your brain, your psyche. Think about this. When you're stressed, if I put any one of you in front of 2,000 people and I told you to summarize this presentation, it's not only your psyche that goes, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, right? It's your heart rate starts going, your blood starts racing, your arteries start opening up, you start sweating profusely, you can't hear anything. It's a whole body response. And what I will say is, though, even though it is not psychologically caused, your body will respond the same way if someone is holding us down physically and the body locks up, or if we have that feeling we are held down by our obligations, it will also lock the body. So the body's reaction will be the same if it's something that's happening to us in this real world or if we are perceiving something to be happening to us. That second one is the one that gets us most into problems because sometimes we're not aware of what we're thinking about things. Again, the symptom is produced by a whole body conflict and it is not arbitrary. As we get into these, you'll notice they actually make a lot of biological sense. Both biological sense, the symptom and their location. Now, you might want to write this down. I'll probably repeat this many, 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 many times. A symptom is a solution to something worse than the disease. I know for everyone here, it's like there's nothing worse than these symptoms. But for the body, the symptom is a solution. It's not a great one, but it's a lot better than the problem prior to the disease. Why do I say this? Because if not, life would be super cruel and illogical, and I don't live in that world. And I don't see it in my clients. I don't see a randomness. I don't see punishment. I see a lot of logic of why things happen. All right, think of this as the symptoms are placed there as an emergency measure, and we'll get into that in a moment. Anyone have any questions before I keep on? Yes.
Um, I'm very much on board with the sort of the concept of German new medicine and this idea that the body's not broken. Just wondered very quickly if everybody else is of a similar mind.
I don't think it's yet as known in the United States as in Europe and South America. It hasn't. There's a wonderful podcast called German New Medicine Conversations or something. I'll link it in, I think, but it's less known.
I actually meant in this specific audience.
Yes, yes. Is anyone here have heard of German New Medicine in this group? Okay, someone I said on the chat, Tanya said German new medicine is new to me, but totally agree with it. Body is not attacking itself. I was introduced to it through me. Yeah, I talk a lot about it. It's really given my practice a lot more precision. Okay. Yeah. And in the MS community, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this circle is the MS community, um, and even in the German New Medicine community also, and that's why I love biodecoding because it has continued evolving, is it's very simplified. And you're like, okay, you were stuck, right? You were stuck in a situation that wanted to get out of, and it's very, very much simplified. So I really wanted to like peel it and take it apart and really teach the nuances and really apply it to your lives and then give you tools because knowing is not enough. There needs to be a change for the body to stop keep protecting you, right? Knowing why you have too many blood cells because you're a mountaineer, it's not going to change it. But if you know it, then you can decide, okay, I won't climb the mountains without an oxygen mask, or I will climb the mountains without an oxygen. You're aware, right? But you'll need to make a change if you want to change the body. What we want to do. So there's another aspect which is very interesting and which is why I wanted to do this group is our problem is we don't have a conscious awareness of what the disease is solving, right? Once the body steps in and solves an issue with a symptom, it buries the problem, the root cause of the symptom, because it's not a pleasant memory. It's a memory where at that moment you didn't have the resources to deal with it and the body jumped in. And so it doesn't want to take you there. It's not a pleasant sensation in that moment. And so, doing these tools and exercises we're going to be exploring will help to bring that moment up so that you can actually understand it, address it, and make changes. I also wanted to give you one more thing about this amazing body before we jump into these symptoms. Um, and it helps also with understanding chronic symptoms like pain and numbing. The body is built with a ton of reserve. Okay. It adjusts where necessary and when necessary. Sometimes we just need a little more oxygen in order to catch a bus. So it will open up more of the lungs so that we have more use of our lungs, right? Or if we're going to run a marathon, then it'll open up for longer time. However, when the adjustment required is beyond the reserve, and we'll talk about our reserves right now, the body actually creates a physical change, an adaptation, because it wants to keep us alive. It's not going to say, nope, you are demanding too much of the lungs. I'm sorry, you're out, right? You'd have all these marathoners die, halfway through, right? No, it'll make an adaptation, a physical change. When that demand is back to normal, the body will break down that adaptation. Think about this. Do we use the full capacity of our lungs? We actually only use 9%. We can use 100% if we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, which couldn't be right now, but we can if we have to catch a bus. We can use it, and we can use it like this, right? If you have to run, you don't have to warm up, right? You can run and start breathing deeply very quickly. Think about this as well. Um, Women and their eggs, right? We actually are born with 1 to 2 million eggs, and we only use an average of 500 in a lifetime. We don't use the full capacity of any organ or system of our bodies. We don't use the full capacity of our arteries. We don't use the full capacity of our stomach to break down food with acid, right? When you get more acid, the body knows, right, how to produce much more than what we usually use. I also want to mention we don't use the full capacity of our glial cells, which are the ones that maintain myelin. We have a humongous redundancy of glial cells because myelin need to stay nurtured at all times. Also, we do not use our full capacity of our nerves. There is a 2 to 3 fold redundancy in our nerves as well. So, summarizing, we have our baseline, what we use every day, such as the lungs, right? 9%. We have our reserves, which in the case of lungs is 91%. And then we have what's called the exceptions or adaptations. If we go beyond our reserves, the body will adapt in order to keep us alive and to keep us going. So, for example, if there's a lot of sun, right, in the summer, if there's a lot of sun, the body will increase melanin and we will actually tan. What happens in Christmas when there's no longer sun? We don't need the tan. So the body will break it down and we're back to being white. And we're like, oh my gosh, I spent hours in the sun for what, right? As we talked about the high altitudes, right? People that live in higher altitudes have more red blood cells. I live on the beach. I remember I went to Albuquerque and I could tell I lacked red blood cells. I was like, wow, I can't like run to something, right? If we break our leg, the body will produce more bone. You'll actually see it in in an x-ray. It will produce extra bone to fortify that area. If you work extra in your hands on the weekends or, you're building something, the body will produce calluses. And when it's no longer needed, all those adaptations break down. Symptoms are an adaptation. It means your body went beyond the reserve. And so that a system stepped in to take over, to keep you safe or to keep you going. When there's a chronic symptom, such as a numbing or tingling, chronic means, according to standard medicine, conventional medicine, is anything that persists more than 3 months. So if something has been persisting more than 3 months, it's because the body has not, something is telling the body to keep going, to keep at it, to keep producing the calluses or whatever else, right? It's telling the body it's not safe yet. So the body hasn't gotten the message, it's okay now, right? You can return to normal function. Or something is triggering the alarms to keep, flipping on and flipping on and flipping on to keep us away from a perceived threat. So now let's jump into our symptoms today. Today, we're diving into the numbness, into the pain and burning and tingling, right? Some of you might have several. Um, I really invite you to focus on one, and I invite you to focus on the beginning, right? I'll have a client who started with a left foot pain or toes, and now it's left and right, because that's an evolution. And oftentimes there's other components, such as diagnosis, and we'll talk about how diagnosis influences symptoms, but there's other components that stepped in. Um, so if you focus on one, focus especially on how it was originally rather than how it's evolved. Rather than tell you about the meaning of these symptoms, what I wanted to do here in the webinar is for us to do some exercises so that you can get the insights from within. And then I could always do a small little recording or something and post on Circle about the German New Medicine or by decoding, meaning. Okay, so on the comments, could you specify where in your body you experience numbing or pain, burning or tingling? if any of those. And if it's something similar, that's fine. I know some are coming to the webinars just to check it out. Okay. Now, can you be even? Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. Now be even more precise. Like in the hand, what part of the hand? Is it the palm? Is it the outside? Is it the fingers which catch things? Is it, if it's the arms, the upper arms or the, left arm, is it the inside of the arm or the outside of the arm? And the shoulders, is it here or is it is it your shoulder blades? Which finger? Even that will give you the precision. I'll give you an example. I had a client, I think all of you guys are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. So I had a client whose first symptom was numbing in her ring finger, in the wedding finger. What might that have to do with? She actually had escaped from a very scary relationship. She left, she moved 700 miles away. And the first symptom that appeared once she moved and even changed her she said the day she changed her phone so that he couldn't even track her that way, she started getting numbing here in her ring finger. And this was only it was 7 years. She had no other symptoms. Her doctor didn't want to diagnose her with MS. Said, I'm not diagnosing you. You're fine. Everyone has something odd. And it was once she was diagnosed 7 years later, because she found another neurologist because she was living too far away from her original one. That one diagnosed her and said, I'm diagnosing you. It's progressive, da da da. And then she started, as I said, she started having other symptoms. But until that moment, it was only this. And it stayed 7 years because even though she didn't have the same phone number, she was afraid he might find her. For those that are experiencing it now, scale of 1 to 10, how present are those symptoms and how tolerable? 1 being can barely notice it, and 10 being super tolerable or intolerable, sorry. Why am I asking this? Oh, perfect. Numb left foot, soles, and toes. Awesome. Why am I saying this? Because as we do the work, we want to see what shifts symptoms. Oftentimes, people are like, well, I still have the symptom, but it's very different to have the symptom, but it's lowered, to have the symptom, but it's worse, right? It's not a switch. And so, those are the pieces. If as we start doing this work, if it's gone down, you know you're in the right track. Right? And so you want to quantify. Good, for right now. Yeah, it can escalate. And so those will give you tips. When that's my next question. And you don't have to write this one down, but start thinking about it. When do you experience it the most? And when do you experience it the least? I have clients that have, primary progressive, and they're like, I experience it all the time. But if we really look, like one of my clients, yes, he experiences his numbing all the time, but interesting enough, it gets much worse when he's standing in front of the staircase to go up to his bedroom. So it's like, hmm, right? And it's better even a slight bit. Again, we're no longer looking for off on. You want to look for that scale. That's precision for you, right? And that is going to give you the information that helps you understand what's causing this. Okay. I'll give you an example. I have a client who came in and she says, I have foot pain, right? Right foot. Perfect. But I started asking her questions, right? What time of the day? Oh, definitely by 9 a.m., especially at 4 p.m. And I was like, that's a precise time. I go, what's happening at 4 p.m.? She goes, I take my dog for a walk every day at 4 p.m. and it hurts when I take my dog for the walk. And I'm like, okay, where do you take it for a walk? Oh, I go around, on the sidewalk, I go around my neighborhood. Okay, interesting. Do you work from home or in the office? Oh, half half. Like, okay, so when you have to work from work, does your foot hurt? Oh, no. Your foot doesn't hurt when you're walking in the office. Nope. Does it hurt when your foot is walking at home? Nope. But it hurts when your foot is walking on a sidewalk. Yes. How about in the grass? No. So all of these things are going to give us tips as to what's going on. How do I rate it if it isn't there? Oh, it's there, but it doesn't hurt or cause discomfort. Then maybe it's just a 1 or a 2, right? It's if you focus, you notice it. The scale is personal. Why do I say this? Because afterwards, if I ask you, what is it now? You will know if there's a difference, right? You will know, is it the same 2 it was a little while ago? Right? I won't know, but you will. So you decide, is that, if it's not really hurt, doesn't really cause discomfort, but I notice it is going to be a 2 for me or 1 for me or 3 for me, whatever you guys want. Each of these details are going to give us a clue as to why you have that particular symptom in that particular place. This is why I love German New Medicine. Think about this. Germans are really precise, right? I don't know if you guys are, they're famous for precision. And so this is also has a lot of precision built into it. So I wanted to do a short demo if someone is willing to really break this down and get a lot more insights into what's happening in that symptom. Now I'm going to post on the chat the kind of a outline of what I'm doing, a little more than an outline. And you guys can just open it and follow it as we go. Is anyone here want to do a little Sherlock Holmes? All right. Okay, so what are you experiencing? Is this numbing, tingling? What is that?
It's the a numbness, and it originates in the back of my shoulder here at my shoulder blade and can go down my arm and affect my fingers as well.
Okay, so it feels like it starts here and then it goes all the way down. It really starts there. Okay, so we want the origin. Okay, and it's your right shoulder?
Left.
Oh, sorry, left. Are you right-handed, left-handed, or kind of in the ambidextrous zone?
I'm right-handed.
Okay. All right. So numbness in the shoulder blade. So that intensity, what did you write? You
I
said,
put a 4. Like it's one of those things that it was the original thing I noticed about my body, and it's very subtle. It's not painful. It's just more annoying, and it's something I've come to kind of live with. When my symptoms were at their worst, there was so much more going on, and this one's, I would say I'm pretty much symptom free for the most part, except for this.
okay. So this one's the
The
original,
original, and it
and
just
it
seemed
seems to
to linger.
something keeps telling it to keep going off.
Yeah.
Okay. Since when?
It's been a couple of years.
Okay. So do you have the date? Would you say it's summer, it's winter, it's before
I
Christmas time?
remember
It's
maybe in the summertime.
would it be before vacation or after vacation or during vacation?
Um, I don't remember. I don't remember that
Okay.
part.
Yeah. So I will be asking really precise questions.
Yeah.
It starts up, and what I always say is take this home afterwards, start looking at
Yeah.
text, emails, comments you wrote, because then the more you can pinpoint, the easier it is later to go, oh my gosh, I think I know what this is. Okay.
Yeah. I
Uh,
I think what comes to mind about that summer was I did experience a lot of loss in our family.
yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense. If she's experienced, I'm just going to jump down, but then we'll come up to this piece. But if you look on, I think it's um, number 8, numbness. It's usually about a contact or a contact you don't want. I don't want this. I don't want this person to be doing this. Um, Pain is usually a contact that I feel separated from. There's a lot more loss. It's like the body doesn't want you to feel, so it numbs you out a little bit. Think about alcohol. People drink alcohol to numb themselves out. That's what the body's doing. Well, pain tends to be, pain tends to be more of I always think that these two are opposites, so we'll keep them. Yeah, it's from the negative. So it's always about a separation. So we're going to just kind of keep that in mind,
Okay.
right? So I'm going to keep following. So yes, you said there's a lot of losses. So we'll just keep that in mind. This is way before the ever being diagnosed, I imagine.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was just diagnosed in this past December.
Okay, perfect. Is it constant or does it kind of wax and wane and
It's constant.
okay. So it never disappears. Does it ever get worse?
Yes. So it does get worse when when my symptoms are at their worst, and I almost feel I'm like I might lose um, use of my left hand. When I had the attacks in Italy last summer, my whole left side contracted and it was just frozen.
Okay. So it started with numbing, and then last year it's moved into a different kind of symptoms, which is freezing and contracting.
Mhm.
All right. So staying with the numbing piece, because that's going to be that's a different response of the body, right? The body has now decided I need to do this thing because there's something worse than doing this thing. The numbing was 2 years ago. Um, so it definitely gets worse when there's a fear, it sounds like. When you're
Yeah,
afraid of losing the use of the left hand?
this, this year with what happened with my husband and like before that started, there was a lot going on in the summer, and that was when my full body tingling started. And then when he had his heart attack and was going through that, it was just in my full body constantly, the tingling and the numbness. And it's like a feeling of neuropathy in my legs when it's at its worst.
Hmm. Okay. So then that's another symptom, which will also have its meaning. Neuropathic
Right.
pain, when it's much deeper, which is also on that page, when it is a lot deeper, then that's a brutal separation. That's just not just separating. I want to separate. That's much more drastic, which will
Yeah.
then bring in the neuropathic. Sounds like it's making sense to you a little bit there. So,
Mhm.
what makes it, if anything, a little better? It's like, is it better when you wake up first thing, when you're lying down, when you're outside the
Um,
house, when you're.
I've learned that for me, resting my body is really key to helping the symptoms.
Mhm. And that symptom in particular?
Mhm.
So, resting helps that symptom as well?
Resting, not being and not putting myself in stressful situations,
Hmm.
which is hard sometimes with our
Yeah. And
um
think about it. If we've talked about symptoms are there as an exception, if the body doesn't feel safe, when you're
Mhm.
stressed or when there's a lot going on, the symptom is going to, the body's going to keep putting in symptoms because it doesn't feel safe, right?
Yeah.
Which is why fear is a big one to work on, because fear is going to trigger symptoms without any other cause, right? Or trigger
Mhm.
the existing symptoms or make them worse. So coming back to the numbing, do you experience the numbing when you're in bed?
Um, yes, it just feels like it's always there. It just, but it can go out of my mind and I don't really think about it.
Okay, all right. How long after you've rested, how long does that reduced numbing last?
Um, until I guess until I'm feeling drained again.
So will that be a few hours or a few days or a few minutes?
Um, it would be more like hours or
Okay.
days. Yeah, not minutes.
Okay, so hours. That's going to tell us
Mhm.
that whatever's retriggering the body has to be pretty close by, right? I'll have a client that does, massage or does something and it'll last her several days.
Mhm.
If you notice that she does massage on Fridays and she doesn't start having symptoms till Monday, where do you think the problem is? Probably not in her house, but in her office, right?
Yeah,
And it's like, what do you do on Mondays? Right? That
yeah.
sort of thing.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, doing anything, for example, cold or warm or massage, other than resting, which is lowering that stress level. Does any of those do anything to the
Um,
numbing?
it. I know I'm getting a lot of massages lately. It helps my body. It helps it feel better and
Does it
supported.
help the numbing?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And
To,
because
to
we're
be
asking
to
these
have it worked
questions,
on.
yeah, and
Yeah.
because we're asking these questions, what I would invite you to do is also, as you do a massage,
Hmm.
check that, right?
Yeah.
We're focusing on one symptom at a time, because it's like, if not, it's like trying to read a book and reading every chapter at once, right?
Right.
So it's like each one has its particularities.
Yeah. I know warmth is very comforting for that. Um, humidity, like when we were just in a warm, humid climate, and that really was helpful for me.
Okay, so that location,
Mhm.
and that's another piece. So not where you're at now, but the fact that you were somewhere else made it better.
Yeah.
Okay, so your trip, so going to a warm, humid climate made the body begin to kind of say, hey, it's not unsafe here, right? It's not.
Right.
Okay, those are clues as well. So we know that that wasn't the problem.
Mhm.
Probably the surroundings today has a continuous, right,
Yeah.
triggering. So close your eyes for a moment and focus. We're on number 5 now. Focus on that numbing there in your shoulder blade that then goes down your left arm. And how would you describe this symptom? What is it like? If I want to get into your shoes, what would I be experiencing? Is this like a pulsating? Is this like a tingling? Is this like a expansion? How would you describe the symptom?
Um, it feels like it begins up here at top with like the numbness, heaviness feeling.
There's a numb and heavy.
But then as it goes down my arm and then to like the bottom part of my arm and my fingers, it can change to the heaviness can turn to pain sometimes
Okay.
and like a loss of ability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's that second symptom really kicking in.
Yeah, but compared, it's not a tingling, it's not painful.
So what
Yeah.
is it like? If I had no idea what numbness is like, how would you describe it? Describe it as
It's
cotton,
like
as
my arm is dying.
okay. So it's like my arm is dying.
Like the life flow is not there.
Okay. All right. Now with your eyes closed again and connecting to that symptom there. Sounds like that description really touched something. Yeah. We're going to approach this numbing in a little different manner because the subconscious mind isn't a logical mind. It's a very metaphorical, it's a very visual mind. And so as you connect to that numbing there, that numb and heaviness in the shoulder blades that then goes down, that only warmth, comfort, massage, an arm that seems to be dying like the life is flowing out of it. If you could conjure up a symbol, a metaphor, what would it be? What represents this? Just allow your mind to kind of bring about an image, a
Uh,
shape.
I just picture like a tree limb.
Mm-hmm. And what is that tree limb like? Describe that tree limb.
It,
Is
it
it a,
just feels more dry and not um, leafy and lush.
yeah, it's dry, it's not leafy. Yeah. Is it a big tree? Is it a small tree?
Um, it feels kind of like that part of the tree is smaller and um, shrinking.
Yeah, smaller and shrinking. And where is this tree? What kind of climate is this tree around? Or what do you notice about, if you notice anything about its surroundings, its location?
Um,
And if nothing comes, there's nothing you need to do. There's no right answer or
well, I want like
necessary answer.
I think of I'm from Savannah and like the oak trees there, and it feels like it's not there. I'm in California now.
Yeah, it's like the oak trees of Savannah.
Except it's been separated from them.
Ah, yeah, yeah. And so when you look at this separated, dry, and not very leafy at all tree limb that's smaller and shrinking, similar to the trees of Savannah, but separated, what is the connection you make between this and the numbing of the shoulder blade? What does that tree limb represent to you?
It just represents connection to my family there, and especially maybe my mom who did pass around
Yeah,
that time. I started experiencing it. My grandmother passed also.
yeah, 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 yeah. Just to check in, does shoulder or shoulder blade, does it have any personal meaning to you? Like some people, they're violin players, so shoulder is a very important part of, playing that instrument or just checking in if there's a personal connection. Okay, I always want to make
No.
sure. So I've jotted down what she said. And another piece I'm going to jot down, which is what I have kind of indicated here in number 8, is some of those universal meanings that German New Medicine and biodecoding has for these symptoms. In German New Medicine, pain and numbing are the same symptom. They're just switching from one to another. And I might ask that on the client. Do you ever experience pain in your shoulder or just the numbing?
Just the numbing.
Just the numbing. In biodecoding, there's a little more nuanced. If people are more stuck in numbing or more, it's more about the numbing, there's something very painful that they are needing to, you know, get away from, right? With pain, a lot of times I'll have a client who, they have a pain in an area of the body that has everything to do with maybe their dreams. They were hoping for, like in their relationship, they were hoping for this amazing relationship and that their husbands were going to solve all their problems. And so the shoulder will have a pain in the shoulder because that that relationship isn't providing them that positive they're seeking, right? But in this case, it's a shoulder. So a shoulder has to do with relationships, like being a good daughter, being a good mother, right? And because it's her left shoulder and she's right-handed, it's the opposite. It tends to be we hold our babies in not in our dominant hand, but in our non-dominant, and our mothers held us in our non-dominant. So because it's the opposite, I'm looking at it's probably her mother or it's her kids. So
Our youngest son left for college right when my mom died. Like it all happened at once. So I can see both of those.
yet let me read. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie it all together because we want to be precise. So close your eyes and thinking about 2 years ago. Think about a relationship, you mothering your son, you being the daughter of your mother, where you there was a separation that you almost sometimes it's even imposed that you didn't want to happen, even that could be related to your family in Savannah, that tree that you feel is getting smaller, perhaps, as something maybe shrinking, something dying, something losing that flow of life. And you were really stressed about it.
Um, what's coming up is a few months before my mom passed unexpectedly. My grandmother, we knew she was 96, and I knew that I needed to go see her. And something really traumatic happened the night before I left, and it really was upsetting to me, and it really, I think, changed her. And I just can't. I wish I had been able to do something more to help her.
So did it feel that there was like a separation there? Did it have that same
Yeah,
feeling of
I just
disconnect from the family,
I
of
knew that
Savannah?
she was in Louisiana, and I knew when I drove away that was the last time I would see her.
Yeah. Yeah. And did that feel like something was dying? Life was flowing out of you, flowing out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we were really close.
Yeah. And so by doing this, by interviewing and having all these little chunks, all these little pieces, and having a time frame, then you can really have the person really feed those words back to them People will always say, and yourselves will be like, oh, it's probably about my mom. That's the most obvious. And it's probably where you did get support and you were expecting it. But a break from your grandmother, you weren't expecting it. It caught you off guard. You had no reserves, especially if your reserves are already used because of your mom and dealing with your mom. This was that exception. This is your body creating an adaptation because it's too much to handle. It's like one more thing I can't. So there's a numbing when it comes to that relationship. And if she was close, then your grandmother's kind of like a mother, right? And so she will
Yeah.
have that same uh, place in the body. And so once you make that link, and it there's this like, you're able to kind of, because how are you feeling now that you've kind of released it a little bit, talked about it?
Um, I I definitely feel lighter, and I feel like something just shifted. Um,
Yeah.
there's like an understanding that happened and a relief.
Yeah. So then we know that, yeah, that's, we've probably tapped into it. Now, the second piece is, as I said, you want to take an action. It's good to understand, but let me ask you this. Because of everything that was going on, and your son leaving, and your mom, did you even have time to grieve your grandmother, to really process that?
Um, no, it just happened so suddenly, and I was not able to go back for her funeral. There had been a really big loss right before her. It was just like a lot in a row. Um, and I think I was able to process more fully when my mom passed. Um, but there's something about, when your grandmother's 96, it's different, even though it happened suddenly and was very upsetting. It felt like it was her time, but maybe I didn't allow myself the same grief because
Yeah. Well,
she was older and it was expected
yeah, it was expected.
eventually.
Yeah. But it wasn't expected right then, right?
Mm-mm.
No. So, is there an action, something you can take so that your body stops needing to numb so that you don't feel this and you don't process this?
Um, I mean, for me, it helps to just think about my memories with her and our connection and having gratitude
Yeah.
and knowing that I am okay. Like I feel connected with her, in a different way now.
Yeah.
Even though I can't go see her, I feel her around me quite a bit.
Good. And I would say that always you want to take some sort of action, right? Give
Mm-hmm.
yourself time with the thoughts about that time. Give yourself, create an altar for her, do something, go visit Savannah,
Mm-hmm.
something, look at photo albums, think about her, because your body has created a temporary solution, adaptation, because it hasn't gotten yet okay, it's okay to process right now. And
Yeah,
perhaps if there's so much going on in your life right now, it's like, I can't. Okay, I'll keep this here. I'll do,
yeah.
this is okay. And then during the holidays, etc., it's like, okay, now I'm going to take time to really let myself feel and talk and connect and come to terms with that time. Anyone have any questions?
I do have a question that just came up with what since that wasn't resolved, and then when my husband just had his heart attack and he actually coded, and does that pile on top of that symptom, or does your body kind of create a different one?
So one is probably more brutal,
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is a separation that isn't as, as brutal. So one might cause the numbing, which is just too
Mhm.
much grief, and there's one more, so the body just says, I'm numbing out here. With your husband, there's two things. Because it's probably more brutal, especially if you
Mhm.
witnessed it, especially if you were there, then that will probably create a lot more intensity, like neuropathic pain,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
it'll probably be in another part of the body. It might not
Okay.
be concerning your relationship to them. This is relationship. If you had an issue that your relationship with your grandmother got unresolved, or there was a misunderstanding, it's going to be here. So it's
Okay.
actually not just the grief, it's resolving that that relationship.
Mhm.
With your husband, it's a different experience. Is it like, it's like it might be about death, about coming to terms, about a dream you had and now you can't, it'd be a different experience, probably a different symptom,
Mhm.
because it was so acute. You might have a, like an epileptic crisis with those, um,
Mhm.
and it will actually be on the other shoulder
Okay.
or the other side of the body. Or,
Okay.
for example, the inside of your arms. It's about, I can't hug him or I can't, save him. So there'll be other symptoms.
Mhm. Okay.
Any other
Thank you, Eva.
questions? Yeah. Yes.
I had a question. When you were talking about the symptoms
Mhm.
and then linking it back to a memory or an event, and then you asked the question, is there an action that you can take around this memory?
Yeah.
What would be an example of an action? Are you thinking of a physical action
You
or
want to do something.
to
So in
do
her
something?
case, she talked about that last phone call, something happened with the relationship, right? This is all about relationships. And if it's still there, that thing is not resolved. So it's
Mm,
like, what can you do? Maybe you write her a card and put it in a little boat and send it off to the sea. Maybe you do, internal work of, talking to your grandmother, whatever that is, to resolve the problem the symptom came in to resolve for you, right? If a numbing, then we know it's something that, we want to separate from that problem, from that person, from maybe the argument, whatever that happened. Um, it's numbing. We need to give it a different solution if we want the body to stop creating that solution with the symptom.
okay.
Yeah, oftentimes I'll have a client saying, "Oh, we know now that my foot has to do with, driving to work and I just don't like that job." And then the next session, I said, I still have the numbing in my foot. Are you still in that job? Yeah. Have you made any changes? Oh, have you looked for a job? No. You need to substitute the symptom, right? The substitute, create a better solution. If the foot is trying to keep you from having to go to that job, if you don't find another solution, the foot's going to keep trying to keep you from doing that job, right? It's persistent and it will not change unless it feels it's safe and it's no longer necessary. Right? I love using this mountaineer, right? The mountaineer has more red blood cells. Just because he does a mantra to reduce the red blood cells, it's not going to change it. Yes, he can take algae and, whatever else. He can take stuff to help bring it down a little bit, but the body's going to keep bringing up red blood cells if he's in high altitude. The only way he can change that the amount of red blood cells is get down off the mountain, take action. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and if that action didn't do it, just keep trying stuff, right? As I said at the beginning, the body experiences things both if you are physically, having a conversation with your grandmother, or if you are mentally, if you are writing, if you are sending, to Santa Claus a letter, the body still experiences a conversation has been had. So in the real realm or in imagination or in metaphoric representation, for the body, it's the same. If it didn't work, do a different one. So I put a lot in this week, in this presentation, because I wanted to see if maybe you guys could even practice. What I would suggest is do this with another partner. There's something about someone else witnessing and someone else hearing. I can hear words that you might not hear in yourself, right? Have everyone here heard Freudian slip? Right? When someone has a Freudian slip, it's like the words they use, Freud, the words they use are giving you their problem like constantly. I used to have a teacher who would say, write down the first 3 sentences your client says when they come into the room, because most of the time it's right there. The solution. It's like our subconscious is talking through us all the time. So having these questions, getting those little Sherlock Holmes, hearing what they say, especially when they describe, it's like, right? It's like someone, death. It's like life no longer flow. All those things are giving you hints of what it's really about. If it doesn't work, you go back and do it again. You do it, different. You work on a different piece and come back again. I always say work with the start of the symptom, how it starts, rather than the tingling or the pain now in the fingers, because that's an evolution, sometimes caused by fear, sometimes caused by other pieces, sometimes just caused by there's so much swelling here, it's cutting off the circulation to your fingers, right? Just to summarize, what we did is think about this, part of what the subconscious is doing is it doesn't want you to see the problem because it wasn't a nice one, right? It's that 2-minute conversation on the phone that you really don't want to think about. So the subconscious is going to try to be vague with you. This is why in this exercise, we were super precise. Location, feeling, when is it? Even if it's constant, is it ever better? Is it ever worse? All those things are going to give you a tip. As I think I mentioned before, a client will come in and say, I think it's probably because my mom was dying during that time. Da, da, da. If they knew what caused it, they wouldn't have the symptom. The symptom is still there because the cause is buried because it's just under the surface. I have this all the time. There's like a big stressor that's going on, which is why during stress your symptoms are worse. And then something goes, and that's the activating event. And we got to find this little guy, not this big thing that's happening during that time. That argument on the side, it's like, I know it's about my job, but then there was that one incident your son did that just caught you off guard. That's that exception that the body goes, ugh, and steps in and creates a change, an adaptation to keep you safe, to keep you going until you have time to deal with that. So we went in from trying to get very exact, trying to find a time frame. Oftentimes I'll give my clients homework of now we have more or less a time frame. Kind of check in what was happening during that time. Because oftentimes, especially with pain and numbing and anything to do with separations, the body doesn't only numb or cause pain, the body also makes you forgetful. It's a trait that the body uses. Think about this in nature. When we have a deer and we have a dove, if the dove gets separated from the deer, 2 things will happen. The dove will feel a numbing or pain, which will alert it that he's doing something wrong, because he went to find a rabbit. And it's like, oh, why does my shoulder hurt? It catches its attention. But the second thing it will do is it'll make the dove, a little spacey, a little forgetful, so that the dove doesn't go too far. And when we're forgetful and a little disorientated, we'll actually go around in circles. So the dove will end up going, or doe will end up going around in circles, and the deer, the mama deer, will be able to come find it. Right? So oftentimes symptoms not only affect our bodies, but affect a little bit our brain, because it's another way the body does to keep you safe. And so these in particular separations will cause you to be a little more forgetful and, of course, forget the reason as well. Um, let me see what other piece we have here. Yeah, so with the person you work with, you jot it down. And then what you want to do at the end, be very permissive, have them close their eyes and just go think about 2 years ago. Where were you? What was going on? Okay, take yourself back. And then you just start naming back all the pieces. Maybe has something to do with Savannah, your family. Maybe has something to do with your mom, someone that's similar to a mom or a mom figure for you, or your son. Maybe it has something to do with, and you're just feeding it back. And then they go, oh, hang on a minute. Or sometimes they go, nothing. And then 24 hours later, I get an email going, I was in the shower and all of a sudden I knew what it was, you know, kind of thing. I gave you guys a little cheat sheet with the universals. You apply it lightly. As we saw, it's like it's a separation. Maybe it's a bit aggressive. Maybe it's another word for them, right? Maybe just the conversation felt aggressive or felt like, ouch, don't say those words to me, right? So you don't want to be, you want to take it lightly. Separation, maybe it's a little aggressive, the separation, right? Maybe she hung up on you. That's aggressive. Regarding forgetfulness, could it also cause brain fog? What do you think? Yes, it could. What do you think brain fog does? Right? If it was had a utility here, anyone want to kind of get a possibility? What could brain fog do that is useful?
You don't have to focus on so many things happening.
Yes, it forces you to just get to what's smack in front of you because you can't focus on anything. And you also can't go too far in the wrong direction. Right? It's like that deer. You can't get too far. And so it's like, no, no, stay right here and resolve what's going on right here. Don't get out into all that other stuff. So yeah, every symptom is, you know, in this world we're creating, every symptom is there to resolve a problem that's worse than that symptom, worse than the brain fog. When I ask about the what happened right before, sometimes it's 6 months before, even a little later, especially when the symptom is like, bam, because oftentimes the body's going to be like, okay, I'll let you keep going. Okay, you try to resolve this. Okay, you try to resolve this. And it gives you like a 6 month, you know, okay, you try to resolve. And if you haven't resolved it in 6 months, they'll go, boom, I'm resolving this because you're losing all your energy with this, right? You're not sleeping at night, you're dealing, you know, and so sometimes if it didn't happen right before, I'll say, what about 6 months before? Because they might just be in that, you know, I always think, you know, if you think about a football player, when they, you know, if they've broken their ribs, does it hurt while they're playing? Sometimes yes, oftentimes not until they're relaxed and they're outside the situation. Right? So oftentimes your body's just trying to balance things out until you're outside the situation and then the symptom comes in. It's like, okay, now stop, do this, you know, let's put this in place until you resolve it. Can it be more than 6 months? Yes, it can. 6 months is a good guideline. What it can be even 2 years before. This is like there's a name for it in PTSD, late onset PTSD or something. Usually what happens if it's later, it's because something came in and your body goes, oh, I know what this is about. And it did not turn out well the first time. And so it just needs that last straw for it to come to it to say, okay, you know what, we're not doing this again. Right. And it'll come in. but the big one can be 2 years before. If you don't find it right before, then start looking further back. As I said, there is an event that happened right before, but there's a history, and there's other tools to help us see what programmed this, right? What allowed you to be more sensitive to relationships or sensitive to this mother-daughter or grandmother. There's something even before in childhood. So, I would maybe explore even what was her relationship with her grandmother as a child, because there's probably something there that already sensitized the body to go, I'm going to have to step in at some point, right? As I said, sometimes as you do this process, the event might not show up right then. So write down all these, these pieces that you guys just did with each other, just did. If you practice with someone, write all these down.
Mhm.
And just like before you go to bed, you read through them and then go to sleep. And oftentimes when you wake up the next day, the body, the subconscious will be like, okay, fine, here. This is what it's about. Right? So one of the ways to tease. I love using the shower. I read it and then I go take a shower and I just focus on washing my hair, etc. And when you're distracted, it tends to percolate up and you're like, oh my gosh, now I know. I had a foot pain for 2 years, right where you would put a bicycle pedal. That's why it's really important to be precise. And that had everything to do with the cause. Right. And once I figured that out and I figured out the tone and the emotions related to it, that was it, right? 2 years of foot pain. That was it. Often what's happening today is the reason why she still has it is either because it's not fully resolved, she hasn't processed it, or something that's happening today keeps re-triggering the body, right? Keeps telling the body, shoe's going to drop again, right? Telling the body, something else is going to happen soon. Especially when you get diagnosed with something like MS and you're like, right? Your body's like, also going, let's just keep this adaptation going because something's going on. We don't know what it is, but it feels very dangerous, right? So oftentimes, and that's one the workshop we'll be doing longer, 4 weeks, which is what keeps symptoms in place. Right, diagnosis and the fear and everything that's connected to the diagnosis, because you'll notice you have pre-symptoms and post-symptoms, and usually there's a lot more post-symptoms. And it's not just because more time has passed. As I said, I had a client for 7 years, wasn't diagnosed, only one symptom. The minute that she was diagnosed, she had a whole array of them, right? So we'll look at those more in detail and we'll have more time to really get into those pieces. What's next? We'll be doing a webinar probably every month this fall. We'll be focusing on different aspects. I was thinking one of the things we can focus on probably next month will be on judgment, self-criticism, right? The need to do it right. That will also create a lot of pressure in the body and it will create muscle weakness. So we are going to kind of look at that next month. And then I think November, I think I've got constipation because that's a big one too. And so we'll be, breaking down, at least getting a little bit of, different symptoms that are common. And then we'll do workshops, a little more like this thing of numbing and tingling. I actually have a 2-month workshop to really peel it, get to the bottom of it, not just what happened before. So what we did today, you guys would actually be doing the exercise because we'd have more time to really get into it, test it, make some changes, see what happens, and then get into the vulnerabilities in childhood and even check family lineage to see if there's anything there and see if there's anything that's triggering you day to day. All right, I'll post this recording on Circle and the PDF, a little bit of the outline. If anyone wants to practice, I think it's the best way. I think you learn by seeing others and then, of course, by applying it. But oftentimes, some things might have clicked already with you. So practicing and helping each other is a great way of really embodying this practice and this work. So in the recording, I'll post it. I'll actually put a little comment if anyone wants to practice, put your name down. And if you put your name, other people cannot see you on Circle unless stand out, because I want it for confidentiality. But if you want a partner to say, hey, this is Amanda, I'm on the East Coast. If someone touches your name, they can actually message you, and you can see if you want someone to practice with. And then on the Circle, ask any questions. I'm always here. I love to teach this stuff. I'll make little videos if need to, or explanations there, so that you guys can start slowly peeling away what's causing these symptoms, right? And what to do about them. Yeah, anyone have anything? Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. That was really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll do a Q&A for anyone. I notice a lot of people are just going to watch it. They weren't able to come because it's the middle of the day. And in that Q&A, if you guys, maybe we'll do it in September rather than in 2 weeks. Anyone who hasn't been able to then can come to the Q&A. We can dig a little further. If there's time, we can even practice then. And if anybody's practiced, then any questions you have, or any questions about anything really. There's no limitations here. Okay. I hope to see you guys in Circle and in these webinars. And, make requests on Join the Conversation. Hey, be nice to have a little webinar, more information on this. That's what it's for.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you very much.